Thanks so much for coming to Cowtown.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Associate professor, huh?
Associate
Fancy.
Sort of newly minted. It's kind of exciting.
Nice. Wow. I feel like I'm with my mom now.
Oh, great. I wish I came with a bucket of cash for the last, government cutbacks and stuff.
Hi over there.
Hi. So,
such an interesting setup. You guys are like in all different. Okay.
Feels like we're gonna be like body checked by a hockey team in 10 minutes.
Oh yeah, wow. When I got in last night, I watched more fights on the sports, hockey fights. Yeah, that's the thing, huh?
It's a proud Canadian heritage,
Gloves just come off and we just start pounding faces, like bam.
Well, me as a $1.40, would just be embarrassing for both me and them, so
wow.
Much about it.
All right, well hopefully I'll be ready if anybody tries to come up and lay one on me.
Okay, so we want to set up, there's actually, there's kind of an Albertan connection here that maybe not a lot of you know about, and I'm speaking here of your, I just came across this the other night actually, is your work in a video by proud Albertan boys, Nickelback, and their video for Rockstar. Many people are aware of that, right?
Yeah.
So, there's some line action happening in that video along with Wayne Gretzky, so how often does a former vampire slayer and a hockey icon get together in the same place and shrine? It just blew my mind. I'm still recovering. So I had a couple of questions that I wanted to start off with before we turn things over to our wild and unruly audience. And the first question I had was about a pop cultural icon. A very strong, independent woman, a cheerleader hanging from California. Of course, I'm talking about...
Who transferred from Los Angeles?
Yeah.
Their school had no gymnastics.
Yeah, and I'm not talking about Buffy, I'm talking about Bring It On, actually. Oh, yeah. And this is kind of a counterintuitive, question to start off with, given, it's not usually maybe the fan base, but I heard a lot of cheering, and I watched Bring It On again the other night.
I think there are a few Bring It On fans in the house, right?
Good. Because it's an amazing film, and I don't want to surprise in my voice, but it's kind
We were all surprised. We had that was one of the great things about it, was that when we were shooting it, the studio didn't really think that it had a chance. Everyone thought it was going to be a straight to DVD. It wasn't really a big, they weren't making a lot of movies like that at the time, and then it was extra special and exciting when it really popped.
Absolutely. Roger Ebert called it the Citizen Kane of cheerleader movies. Actually,
I love that.
Which is an amazing compliment, I think, right?
Nice.
I want to be
on my Twitter tonight.
I want to be the Citizen Kane of cheerleader movies. Put on my bucket list.
Did you make that up?
No, it's true. I swear to God. It's totally true. But another thing that's kind of amazing about the film, and another great Canadian critic, Robin Wood, who's a really kind of brilliant guy, had kind of some interesting things to say about kind of the film's political ideas. He had this really great article about teen comedies in the 90s, and said that Bring It On was extraordinary for correcting a lot of the sexism and racism and homophobia that's kind of associated with a lot of teen comedies. So I wondered if that was something that drew you to the project, and what you felt you brought to that role and that ethos of the film.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I agree with you, or I agree with them, whoever was saying that. The writer, Jessica Bendinger, had a really smart, quick script, and the director, Peyton Reed, had a really great vision for it. And I think, it was kind of a time of teen movies, and this one just had a fun little wink in it, and it had a message that I loved all the stuff about the gay cheerleaders or not, and just because I get more, well, whatever his line was, and it was really cool to see that people caught on to it, and that they in turn embraced it the way they did, because it was, like I said, sort of a risk, because there was a lot of innuendo and not innuendo, pretty direct and blatant message in the film and the way it was shot, and it was awesome that people caught on.
So it's so
Liked it.
template setting. I mean, you look at like Glee would be impossible without it. I think this film. So it's really,
And it was all like little sweet young girls that would come to me and gay men in supermarkets, and they would be like, "We love it!" and start doing the cheers.
awesome.
I love that.
Oh, that's cool. But again, I thank Robin Wood for bringing this. And actually, I bring up Robin Wood deliberately because there's kind of a connection with you and Robin Wood because, of course, you're married to Robin Wood.
Come again?
Well, Robin Wood is the guy that you hook up with at the end of Buffy, isn't it? So yeah, so Robin is that character on Buffy, and he's actually named after the critic Robin Wood because Joss, being such a brilliant guy, is kind of named his character after him.
I learned more about my roles and my shows at these conventions than I ever knew. I mean, I'm not that bright, so it's not surprising me, but...
He wrote this amazing essay about the American horror film, which was really kind of inspirational. And actually, it kind of, has a role playing Scream and all kinds of stuff like that. So that's kind of a Joss.
This guy's on it, professor. That's why he gets that title.
Send me buckets of cash. Call my name. So another question. Speaking about kind of strong, female characters. I'm kind of interested in this, and we talk about a lot about these kinds of figures in my pop narrative classes, and I got all these kind of great essays by both guys and gals who are kind of really preoccupied with the kind of the obsession with kind of the strong female character and the evolution of that kind of type in the last decade, which you play kind of a seminal part in setting a template for because your badass roles over the years. And I came across a really kind of interesting quote from a really great feminist critic that I like who writes for Slate called, her name is Alyssa Rosenberg. And she says, I'm all down with strong female characters. And I'm all down with, physical and emotional resilience. But what about, expanding our definition of strong female character? What about, thinking about strong in terms of whether the execution of the character is precise and unique. So thinking of strong in that way. So I guess 10 years after Buffy and a few years after Dollhouse, what is that kind of phrase or that type, strong female character?
Female
yeah,
character.
for you.
I as some of you know, grew up with a pretty feminist mom, and I have been known to now play all these strong female characters, and I feel like that in some ways, I love that, but in some ways in our culture and society that's become a little bit narrow-minded, and it to me, every sort of pilot season, I'll say it, I get a lot of scripts that are like, oh, we're going to send you this one, and it's this really strong female character, and you just start reading all these women, and as you said, maybe they're physically strong and they can lift a bus, or they're like really serious all the time, but I think that absolutely it is nice to see when there's more complexity and more texture and colors to the character, and that's part of the reason why I've loved working with Joss Whedon so much is that he does that, and he doesn't have to sort of overcompensate for not knowing how to write a smart, strong woman powerfully with a bunch of other sort of cliche stuff.
Right on. Okay. Well, I want this is a nice segue to some recent projects that you've been doing. Being such an extraordinary athlete, I heard that you are a pretty amazing marathon runner, and
I did like 2 triathlons just because I'd never done one, and
okay.
I did pretty good.
Okay, and so it's interesting to think about you kind of the recent projects that you've been doing, sort of moving out of roles which are all about kind of capitalizing on your physical prowess and moving more into voice work. So do you want to talk a little bit about some of the projects that you've been involved in recently with some of the animated work that you've been doing, like the Torchwood series? As a Hoofian, that makes me salivate. The upcoming work in She-Hulk, you role as Catwoman. What would you like to tell us about?
I've been pretty psyched to get the chance to do some more voiceover work. I started in video games, I guess, and then in the last couple of years, Well, yeah, as you mentioned, we just wrapped on our first season of Hulk and the Agents of Smash, where I'm voicing Shulky, She-Hulk, and it's an amazing cast, and I love all the guys that I get to be in a room with. Seth Green is involved, and it's just a different, it's enough of a similar vibe that I don't feel like I'm completely over my head, but I can also show up in, like sweatpants, and you get to be in this really creative small room, and all the other actors are in there with you, except for Seth. Seth's like never there, that little bugger. I think he does so much voiceover that he has his own little recording booth at his house, so he just literally rolls out of bed in his pajamas and goes into the kitchen and does it. But all the other guys, I just have learned a lot. I mean, it's very expressive, and it's fast-paced, and then now to see some of the episodes, just last week I saw some of the final episodes they pulled together, and I just so wanted a bowl of cereal and like a Saturday morning and just to watch 10 of them in a row. And they're awesome, and they're really funny, they're really well done, and I think you guys will dig them. And yeah. And then I shot you said something about physicalness.
Well, it's just
physicality. I just shot a pilot for a remake of the show The Saint. Yeah. And yeah, do you guys know The Saint from the 60s, the Roger Moore show? It's kind of a cool, sexy little show, but it's going to be even cooler and sexier because we did it like that. And Roger Moore himself is involved. He's about 1,000 years old, but he's still rocking. And he's really great, and we should know more in the next couple weeks, so stay tuned to what the next developments on the Saints are going to be. But the intention is to shoot internationally, and in London and Singapore and all over the place, maybe Calgary, right? So we get some good tax breaks, people, right to your, senators.